Hello and welcome to Post Game Theory. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Tonight, we're going to talk about maybe my favorite game of the NBA season so far, the Denver Nuggets versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Just a fantastic basketball game where the stars shone out and we got to see an awesome back and forth comeback, everything like that. We're going to talk about Warriors Celtics, which was the opener over on ESPN. We're going to talk a little bit about Zaccharie Risacher's breakout game. He had 33 points in a game against New York. And then we're going to talk about Egor Demin as well, who had a fantastic opener for BYU. But first, as always, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. What's going on, guys? I hope that you are all having an okay day at the very least. Wednesday, November 6th, here. We had a nice, beautiful return to NBA action. My goodness, it was probably the best night of NBA basketball that I have seen so far this season. We had an awesome Warriors Celtics game. We had, again, the game that I thought was maybe my favorite game of the season. We'll talk about that momentarily. We had a fun Atlanta Hawks New York Knicks game that I think Knicks fans will be a little bit frustrated with for rightful and fair reasons. We had a lot of just really cool games too across the board. We had Orlando and Indiana. Indiana had like this incredible bench performance. We had a Houston blowout. We had a tip in at the buzzer by Brandon Miller for Charlotte to pick up a win. We had a really close game with Phoenix where Kevin Durant just like completely dominated. We had Sacramento turn on the Jets in the second half against Toronto. It was an incredible night of basketball, but we have to start and talk about truly what I think is my favorite game of the season to this point. It is Denver and Oklahoma City. The Denver Nuggets beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 124-122 in an absolute thriller. It looked like at the end that Golden State or that the Denver Nuggets were going to run away with it a little bit and get this thing up to 10. And then Oklahoma City comes back, brings it super close. Just everything that I kind of love about the NBA, the stars just absolutely showed out in perfect ways. Nikola Jokic, who we will absolutely be breaking down tape on, has 23 points, 20 rebounds, 16 assists. Completely dominated and orchestrated this game from the minute that the second half tipped off. Every single thing that Denver needed was unbelievable. He was unbelievable in the second half. We also had an incredible Jalen Williams game. Folks know that I am an enormous J-Dub fan. J-Dub goes for 29, 10, 9 assists, 3 steals. He was fantastic. He had a big run late to try and bring Oklahoma City back, drills a little push-off mid-range jumper, then comes back down again, drills a 3 in transition. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has 28 points and 6 assists. I mean, you just look up and down this thing. It was incredible. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. hit a ton of huge shots. Russell Westbrook played his best game of the year. He has 29 points. He hits 3 threes. It was a remarkable game. And I think what was most fun about it for me was the way that Denver kind of adjusted and figured this out. They go down 16 with like 7 or 8 minutes left in the third quarter. And then Russ and Christian Brown hit these huge back-to-back threes. Isaiah Joe hits a 3 to get it back to 13. This is after like Michael Porter Jr. and Lou Dort had just hit back-to-back threes against one another. It was so fun in that third quarter. And then they take Russ out at 87-77. And they just immediately go on this 12-0 run. And again, I don't want to like shit on Russ here. Russ ends up with 29 points and he played his best game of the year. I do think that they flow a little bit better without Russ on offense, but that's only when they get shooting like they got tonight. The Nuggets really need to get shooting. This was a weird game for me in a lot of ways because on some level, it was just so incredibly fun to watch Nikola Jokic try and figure out how to problem solve. It always is. He's always incredible, right? He's always amazing, trying to figure out how to attack a defense. Oklahoma City just started doubling. They started bringing doubles from everywhere. He just immediately dissected the doubles, as we're going to break down on tape. He processed the game at such an elite level. It was incredible. And then on top of it, you get these incredibly just fun sequences where you can see that Oklahoma City just like doesn't really care about Denver shooters, but Denver just decides, or Oklahoma City just decides, you know what, we're going to go ahead and double. We're just going to help. We're going to scramble around, try and get late contests. And Denver shooters proved people wrong. I love watching games where shooters that don't get guarded prove people wrong. It's not to say that it's bad process, because honestly, another one of my, I don't want to say, concerns about Denver moving forward. I've talked about those ad nauseum, but another one of the things that I felt watching this game was almost disappointment for Denver too, because we got to see what it looks like again with elite shooters around Jokic. We got to see what it looks like just for this like split second where Russ goes 3 for 4 from behind the 3-point line, and Porter goes 6 for 10, and Christian Braun goes 4 for 8. Julian Strawther, even though he goes 1 for 7 in this game, he still gets guarded like a shooter. And it made me like a little bit wistful for, when Denver had him surrounded with all sorts of spacers and all sorts of shooters. It was amazing. It was such an incredible game. Again, 23 points, 20 rebounds, 16 assists for Jokic. And I think that is just where we're going to start breaking down tape, just to kind of talk through what Jokic did tonight, because it's worth talking through and it's worth absolutely breaking down in detail. So this one, we're going to start near the end of the second quarter with some of these, just because this is where I felt like, yeah, Oklahoma City pulls away later, but this is where we start to get into some fun stuff where Denver, throughout the course of this video, and this is a lot of Denver's offense this season, is putting Jokic on the block somewhere and just letting him go to work and trying to force doubles, and then letting him read the defense, right? Empty side of the court over here. No one here. Typically, Denver will have one player up high here. You'll see in the second half, they did an amazing job of making sure that player was MPJ. But when it's not MPJ and when it's a non-shooter, right? Especially without Jamal Murray, because Jamal Murray did not play in this game, you need to find a way to weaponize that player. And with Russ, the way that they weaponized it was with their cutting. And Russ did a great job cutting and creating opportunities at the rim, taking advantage of when Oklahoma City would try to double. So again, you can just look at Russ. He's just waiting. He knows Lou Dort is going to go for the double. He knows that this is going to come here, and he just has to back cut him. He just has to go behind him, cut to the rim, get downhill, and try to finish. I thought Oklahoma City in this game, we'll talk about, was just like a little bit haphazard, maybe, with their doubles. Not quite at the same level that we saw them doing it in the opener, for instance, when they beat Denver pretty easily. And man, when you're haphazard on those doubles, Jokic will kill you. This one, they kind of inverted it first, right? They go Russ into Jokic into a ball screen from Russ, and then Jokic rolls down onto the block. Double here again. This time he recognizes that Peyton Watson's going to be the one to cut. Jalen Williams sees this. You can see him literally looking this way. Gets his hand in there, flops it back to Jokic. Jokic just makes a play. Jokic is going to do that from time to time. Again, still second quarter, just right back to Russ. Russ lived at the foul line in the second quarter, was really, really good at getting there. He ends up taking, I believe, 9 free throws in this game. Look, those are the kind of actions where Russ can be successful. It's worth noting that as of right now, there is really only one two-man lineup with Jokic that is failing, and it's the ones with Russ. If you look at two-man data for Julian Strawther, they're like +8 or so. If you look at two-man data for Peyton Watson, I think they're like in that 6 to 8 range or so with Jokic. If you look at all the starters, obviously those guys are fantastic with Jokic because that 5-man unit has been unstoppable this season. They've been unbelievable. But with Russ, they're actually still, even including this game that took Denver to 5-3, they're still -3 points per 100 possessions. So look, I don't want to sit here and tell you guys that this is some turn back the clock moment for Russ. I don't know that it is, right? Maybe it's just this game where we got to see this incredibly fun turn back the clock game from Russ. And I'll take that. Like as someone who has loved watching Russ for years, I don't know that this solves the issues that they have had with Russ throughout the course of the season, but it solved it tonight. And they figured out how to play that two-man game a little bit better tonight. And I hope that that can be applicable moving forward with Russell Westbrook and Nikola Jokic together. Here again, now we're into the third quarter, getting close to where the big run started. Just a little bit haphazard with the double again here, right? So now that Jokic has made this shot, where I want to show you guys what I'm talking about is, again, as I mentioned previously, Michael Porter Jr. is the high player here on the empty side post up. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander here kind of stunts like he's going to double, kind of looks like he's going to go. And because it looks like he's going to go, Jalen Williams is guarding Russ. Jalen decides I have to go out and close out onto Michael Porter Jr. because of course I do. Michael Porter Jr. is the way bigger threat from beyond the 3-point line. But as soon as he does that, Russ just immediately back cuts and gets to the basket. It's a little bit harder to play off of these non-shooters who are great cutters with Jokic involved. He will find them. But to me, this is on Shai for not bringing the double. If you're Shai and you're going to double, you have to be here to cut off this pass. You have to be here. Your arms have to be high. You have to be cutting off the angle for Jokic to make that pass once Jalen Williams decides to rotate over. That's just a half-hearted double. Again, they were just a little bit off tonight, it felt like, defensively. Russ gets the steal. Now we're just going to get like a fun little transition play, right? Typically, Jokic, would be in the big man role. The center is typically the trailer in this circumstance. But this is a good example of how you can invert some fun things with Russ. You can say, hey, Jokic is going to bring the ball up the court. Russ, just go. Just go. Trail. I'll find you. He finds him, gets to the bucket, makes a basket. This is the stuff that you can do with Russ, and that I hope Denver starts to weaponize. This doesn't take away any of Russ's negatives, but he was great tonight. He was a -14 when he was on the court, and I still think he was useful tonight for Denver. He was a valuable player. Here, again, just emptied outside of the court. And you're going to see Cason Wallace just slightly late on the double off of the entry. So these two guys here, Watson and Brown, guys that Denver was pretty comfortable, or Oklahoma City, was comfortable leaving open. Cason just gets there on the double a little bit too late. And the thing I want to point out to you guys here as we're watching this tape is, I don't think this is indicative long-term. This matchup, assuming these two teams meet in the playoffs, which is very possible, this matchup is going to be entirely different once Isaiah Hartenstein gets there, because they'll play bigger with Hartenstein and Chet. They'll be able to play Chet onto Aaron Gordon, play off of Aaron Gordon with Chet in the middle of the paint. Isaiah Hartenstein will be able to be defending Jokic. defending Jokic is really the reason why you go sign an Isaiah Hartenstein. So this one here, Jokic brings the ball up the court, fake DHO, then you get a real DHO coming over from Strawther. I popped this one on here just because, again, this was in the middle of that 12-0 run. The space just looks a little bit better to me on the court with Strawther versus Russ. Creates just a little bit more opportunity for Jokic. You saw it on that last possession too. This one, at least Caruso, notice again how I complained last time about the way Shea doubled. Look at Caruso. He knows that somebody is going to cut if he doubles off. He just immediately gets that hand up in the passing lane. That's the critical key. That's the key. That means that he has to kick it out to Strawther where Cason Wallace already is. And now Cason's going to double. Again, just kind of a half-hearted double, and Jokic is able to score. Here, we get Russ. He's downhill. This is a bench unit now. I popped this one on just, Russ has not been a great finisher this year. This one, he goes, he finishes. Good shot there at the basket. Again, though, entry, Jokic. I mean, this is just like preternatural placement to me. I can't fathom this. This isn't even bad defense to me. This is just like doesn't make sense. Now, like, do I love that Aaron Wiggins is coming to double from the baseline? I don't. I don't think that makes a lot of sense against Jokic. But Caruso here isn't even in a bad spot. Look at this. Look at this freaking window that he has to put this through. That window is like here to here. There is literally only one spot that Jokic can put this ball. It is unbelievable that he found Brown on this cut. And Brown misses. I put it on there just because I was blown away by the pass. I was blown away that he made that pass. Now we're at Oklahoma City up 2. Again, he's just kind of bullying Chet. It's hard. Lou gets into the passing lane the correct way. Aaron Wiggins does a good job helping down onto the cutter. But that's going to leave Strawther open, and that's the difference between having Strawther and Russ out there, right? Strawther is a real shooter. You have to close out. You have to go out to the shooter. But notice what happens. Shea X's out, which makes sense. It's what you should do. Joe doesn't go immediately to the corner. He realizes that Shea goes out eventually, gets there, but Dort is just a little bit late onto Brown. This is what shooting does. This is what spacing does. Now we get Jokic again, just moving Chet. Caruso with the help. I think Caruso here even knew he was dead. Right there. You can literally see him like put his arm up. He's just like, fuck. Claps. He knows it. He knows that he got there late. These are the margins for error with Jokic. I don't even think this is like, look, a same side help against Jokic is just like deadly to begin with, and it's something I would not advise, but it's very clear it was part of Oklahoma City's scouting report in some respect to do it, right? I can't fathom same side helping while with the person that's guarding him, with the person that's guarding Michael Porter. But I mean, it's unbelievable. It's truly just remarkable. And then finally, I think either this one or the next one's the last one. I love the way they get into this one. That little back screen from Brown. And then he just whips that ball to Brown on the cut. I said this last time we broke down Denver and the Thunder. Nikola Jokic is going to make this guy so much goddamn money this summer. Christian Braun is extension eligible. They have no way to replace him. This is like a $20 million a year player, the way he's playing right now. He has been unbelievable. He has been so fantastic to start. The last thing I'll note here too, by the way, it wasn't just offense, right? Obviously, Denver gives up 122, but the way that they adjusted in the second half, I think Michael Malone deserves a ton of credit. They end up going, okay, Alex Caruso's on the court. We're going to put Jokic on Caruso, and we're going to beg Caruso to beat us. Maybe Caruso will beat us offensively. Maybe he won't, but it's very similar to what teams did to Josh Giddey, right? It is incumbent upon Alex Caruso to be able to beat teams with his offense. I generally think he'll be able to. I feel somewhat confident that he'll be able to, but the thing about Oklahoma City's team build is that they have a number of options. They have Aaron Wiggins that they can go to. I kind of think Wiggins might end up closing a bunch of games this year. They have Isaiah Joe they can go to if they want more of an offensive punch. You know, they have Lou Dort that they can go to in a big lineup, right? If you want to go Isaiah Hartenstein once Hartenstein gets back. They're going to be just such a real problem for opposing teams to deal with. It's going to be a real issue for opposing teams, but it is incumbent upon that fifth player to beat teams. It is incumbent upon them. And Caruso, I think, will be able to. I do feel confident Wiggins can beat teams now. He is a real shooter from distance. He has been a serious revelation over the last year and a half for the Oklahoma City Thunder and deserves an immense amount of credit for his improvement. Okay. Before we move on and talk about the Warriors and Celtics, we have a couple of sponsors to get. This episode of Game Theory is brought to you by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude, and there's someone that we don't often think about and thank enough: ourselves. Sometimes it's hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything. Look, in this world, it is not easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, and that does include yourself. I'm someone who's absolutely gone to therapy in the past, particularly when I got diagnosed with ADHD. It's helped me immensely to understand myself, understand particularly how to put boundaries up with my interests, how to put boundaries up with work. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Game Theory today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/Game Theory. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. We love PrizePicks here at Game Theory because of how easy they make it to get real money sports action. If you think Justin Jefferson's going to get more than 83.5 yards next week, you can pick that. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long over on PrizePicks. My picks this week: Jamar Chase, more than 79.5 receiving yards, and Patrick Mahomes, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Download the app today and use that code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Okay, let's go to the Warriors. The Warriors and Celtics played another really fun game that occurred this evening. The Warriors go into Boston and beat Boston 118-112. A few things to kind of take away from this and a few things that I want to talk about. First and foremost, Boston was without Jaylen Brown in this game. Did not play. Important to note that because one of the things that we're going to talk about when we break down tape is how Boston couldn't really get the kind of penetration that they typically get with guys like Peyton Pritchard, with guys like Derek White, with Drew Holiday. they are just not as explosive as Jaylen Brown is getting through those creases the teams present on defense because the Boston court is so well spaced. And I thought Golden State took an incredible advantage of that opportunity in this game. They did a great job swarming and helping all over the place. We'll see that when we break down the tape. But then Boston came back. Boston battled back after a double-digit deficit at halftime. They get this thing down to 1 going into the third quarter. They take the lead at a certain point, and then Golden State just fights through it. Buddy Hield has been great to start this year. 16 points on 6 for 11 shooting, drilled 4 threes in this game. I thought Buddy's defensive effort as well in this game was just a little bit better than what we've seen from him in previous years. I think generally this year he's been pretty solid in that respect. Steph Curry goes for 27, 7, and 9. I mean, he was unbelievable. Draymond Green, I thought he was critical in this game. You know, he goes for 9 points, but his ability to defend and scramble around was critical. It was so important. But the thing that I want to talk about most with Golden State is something that Bryce and I talked about in the preseason. Their depth is enormous. And particularly what their depth did tonight is it allowed them to keep fresh players on the court and to go at 100 miles an hour while they were rotating and scrambling around defensively against Boston. That was the key to the game tonight, was the way that they were able to scramble defensively against what is basically the best offense in NBA history. If you look at any numbers, this Boston offense is the best game in NBA history. Best offense in NBA history. Yes, they're without Jaylen Brown. Yes, they're without Kristaps Porzingis. They absolutely did not have their full complement of players. But man, I thought that what Golden State did tonight was so impressive. I think people are going to look at like Jason Tatum not playing up to his standard tonight and say, oh yeah, like Tatum kind of lost them the game through stretches. You know, he ends up going 10 for 20 from the field, has 4 turnovers, but he has 32 points and drilled some critical shots to get them back in the third quarter. To me, this was more about Golden State's scouting report and plan defensively, as opposed to anything that Boston did. I thought Golden State was just really good in this game. So let's kind of jump in and talk through it, right? So here, what I want to call out is, you know, we're a minute into the game. What Golden State can do that a lot of teams can't do is just switch all of this stuff. They're capable of switching so many different things. They also decided to trap a lot. I love the fact that they tried to trap Jason Tatum and Peyton Pritchard and Derek White at times and guys like that. Try to force them to move the ball, but then use your ground coverage, use your athleticism to scramble around. I also put this one on here because Nimi Keita had like an incredible run here in the second half. He has 14 points, 8 rebounds. But to me, the difference between a Nimi Keita and an Al Horford or a Porzingis beyond the shooting is this stuff, where you get Nimi Keita in the middle of the court and Moses Moody's able to rip him, right? Those guys, I think, would keep the ball high. They'd process it a little bit quicker. They'd move that ball here to a wide open Derek White, which is where Keita is trying to get it to. Like, he immediately realizes that that is where the help has come from. And he's trying to shoot this ball out. He's just not quite able to get there. And again, just this is textbook defense. If you're going to put 2 on the ball, you know, 2 on the ball, 1, 2, offensive player has to short roll into this area here to be the release valve from the double team. And as soon as you do that, you know that Moses Moody has to be here. He has to be available. He has to be waiting. He's there and help. This results in essentially like Draymond Green has to be responsible in a 1-on-2. It's a bad ask. It's a really hard ask for Draymond Green there, but it's the way that you have to defend if you're going to trap the ball at the end of the day. So here, they ran a lot of fun actions, I thought, the Celtics, to try and get guys loose. I mean, I just love the way that they stay attached here, right? I love the way that Wiggins kind of stays attached there, then recovers out to Tatum, high at the ball with Buddy Hield. I thought that using Buddy Hield to guard Al Horford, so essentially guarding small on Horford, was a fantastic idea. As you can see, like another option would be using Gary Payton there. Another option would be using Draymond Green there, right? They used Buddy Hield. They guarded small. They didn't feel like Al Horford was going to be able to go inside and punish them necessarily. Look at this help. Draymond there does a great job. Wiggins is being aggressive at the ball. I love it. He does get beat. You see Draymond kind of step up and stunt here, then recover back. Easier to do that when it's Luke Cornett versus Kristaps, right? But forces the miss. Buddy Hield gets the rebound, right? So Wiggins on Tatum. They switch it. Now Gary Payton's on Tatum. You got Wiggins chasing around the screen. Double team. Great job here by Draymond Green getting his hand on the ball. Another deflection there. And now they're chasing, right? Gary Payton gets his hand on the ball. Buddy Hield goes, gets an opportunity at the rim in transition. Here, they just decide to switch this action. Hield and Kuminga. This is a mismatch, obviously, but look at Kevon Looney. Again, Luke Cornett, easier to help off of than other guys. I think Luke Cornett's become like a pretty solid backup center, but easier to help off of than most. Look at Kevon Looney here. He's just kind of waiting. Buddy Hield does a good job just kind of standing up there. Gary Payton goes, kind of makes it so that he has to hit the kick out. And Gary Payton with an immense closeout, an unbelievable closeout. Look at that ground coverage. This is what we talk about when we're talking about ground coverage. The ability to stunt. Payton gets his hand up here even in case he tries to throw the ball to Cornett. Look at that hand there. I mean, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And he goes out for the steal or for the block somehow. Incredible defense from Gary Payton. Gary Payton was great in this game. He ends up playing 18 minutes, and they were a +7 when he was on the court. Best of all the bench players outside of Buddy Hield and 4th on the team tonight. Gary Payton was huge for the Golden State Warriors. Here, you can just see the way that Golden State's communicating, right? Like guys like Lindy Waters and Buddy Hield, bench players, talking through how we're going to deal with that little exchange there between Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. Then Lindy Waters is up in his face, aggressive. Then they aggressively double with Trace Jackson Davis. This team is super mobile. This ends up being a half-court violation. You guys saw that ball hit the ground there. But man, Trace Jackson Davis being mobile, their bigs being mobile, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga being able to play the 4. It makes it so much easier to guard teams like Boston where you have to cover an immense amount of ground. And again, I want to be clear, like I said at the start, Jaylen Brown not being in this game, huge problem for Boston. Huge problem for Boston. But I think this game did show that if you don't have a star like Jaylen or Jason, Boston is very beatable, I think. Again, great switch. Hield closes out. You get the help from Kuminga there. You get the help, recovery from Kuminga, the help from Kyle Anderson, the rotation out there from Trace Jackson Davis. Just look at all these guys flying around. Switch. Buddy's available. The help from Lindy Waters down. You're going to get Kuminga going here, then stunting back. You're going to get Kyle Anderson coming up. You're going to get Trace Jackson Davis going out. This is textbook rotation defensively. Absolutely textbook. They end up getting the rebound. Look, NBA players sometimes, like Peyton Pritchard, who's damn near a 40% three-point shooter consistently, they're going to make this shot. It's going to happen. Boston is, again, one of the best offenses in history. But if you give effort, you give yourself a chance. Second efforts, third efforts. I thought Golden State was fantastic with that tonight. Here, Curry trying to work a switch to get Curry onto the ball. And I just love Curry's willingness to fight. I love Moses Moody's willingness to fight. And I thought Curry did a really good job defensively in this game too. Now we've got Gary Payton on Jason Tatum. Again, small onto Horford with Curry picking up in transition. Look at Draymond come over and help baseline so that Horford has to turn out toward the lane. Curry's able to bump him out. That ends up being like a 7 or 8 footer. Draymond ends up getting the tap out rebounds. 11 Warriors tonight played 13 minutes or more. They're just deep. They can keep all of these guys fresh in some respect. So this one's fun, right? So this is what we call a ram screen, right? So Peyton Pritchard goes up, sets a screen for the screener to come up and set a screen himself. And then they turn that ram screen kind of into a stack pick and roll. A lot of teams do this. I wouldn't call it like a traditional stack because Keita doesn't really get in there and be able to get the screen there. You do get Peyton Pritchard screening going out. Concept isn't that similar. Again, Peyton Pritchard misses, but again, late closeout here from Draymond Green. That's a dude with a 7'1", 7'2" wingspan. Gets out there, covers a ton of ground, right? So here, again, notice how many of these clips have Gary Payton involved, despite the fact that he played 18 minutes tonight. He was just immense on defense. Just look at these guys fighting, scratching, clawing, getting over screens, doubling now. Buddy Hield with the help. Huge long shot. End up getting like a weird foul there from Boston. One thing that's underrated with Boston, by the way, is their ability to offensive rebound, I think. They were top 15 in the league in offensive rebounding last year. Part of that is because they take so many threes, long rebounds, they're able to get it. But they're able to still have a solid transition defense while maintaining some presence on the offensive glass. It is a big addition to their three-point attack. Again, just Gary Payton just everywhere here. This is a fantastic stack pick and roll. Just a great, perfectly run set here. So Cornet goes up, stack pick and roll for people who don't know. Cornet's going to come down, screen, roll, essentially roll into a screen or roll all the way to the rim and screen for a shooter to come up and end up in this spot, and then you can hit the kick out. Or you can come up the opposite side. You don't have to come up this way. You can come out this way as well. Just depends on where the roller goes. This player's reading the roller for the most part, the Tatum player. And look at that. That's perfect. Kuminga, though, man, fights all the way back into that play. Second efforts, third efforts, aggression, all of it's there. This is all great work from the Boston Celtics, or from the Golden State Warriors. I'm sorry. Again, just look at Kuminga here, fight through these screens, right? You know, we're going screen here from Keita for Peyton Pritchard to come around. Try to get Drew Holiday going downhill. Look at Draymond Green just immediately step up here off of Keita. Again, huge help that Nimi Keita isn't like an immense offensive threat. This gives time for Kuminga to come back down. Lindy Waters can attach to the body on Keita. Try and force a tough shot. Look at that rotation. Perfect from Kuminga. Get the block from behind from Buddy Hield. Again, Buddy Hield has been way more active defensively than what we've seen previously. Just great. This is great stuff. And then finally, fourth quarter, up 3 for Golden State. And they're still fighting. Just look at these rotations everywhere, flying around. Just really good work from the Golden State Warriors tonight. Their defense won them this game, particularly in the first half. I don't think Boston lost it. I think Golden State took it. And they deserve it a lot of credit for it. Again, no Jaylen Brown. I thought Derek White did a good job stepping up. Took 19 shots, hit 26, 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Really, really good player. Jason Tatum ends up with 32. Peyton Pritchard has 16, but he goes 3 for 11 from beyond the 3-point line. The Warriors earned this win. You're not going to be without Jaylen Brown every night, but when you're without him and you're getting that opportunity to play the Celtics, you got to pick up the win. Okay. Next game here. The New York Knicks against the Atlanta Hawks. This is the third game I decided to pick up tonight. And man, am I glad I did it. We got the Zaccharie Risacher breakout game. 33 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, plus 14. I thought he was their second best player tonight behind Trae Young and Jalen Johnson. He was everything they hoped for when they drafted him. He was everything that they hoped for when they drafted him tonight. Not a guy that's necessarily going to create shots at this point. I don't know if he self-created a single shot tonight, in all honesty. But he was there as a play finisher, as a cutter, and a guy that drilled threes. He hit 6 for 10 from 3 tonight, got to the line a ton as well, ended up with 9 free throw attempts, only made 5 of them. Again, the shot can kind of flatten out occasionally. But I thought he was awesome. I thought he deserved a shout out here on the show. Let's talk through what made Zaccharie Risacher's breakout game happen here. So we're going to get through this first action here. Ball screen for Dyson Daniels. This is like one of the first possessions. Might actually be the first possession for the Atlanta Hawks. Risacher comes up. Screens away, comes back, drills a 3. I mean, this is awesome. This is the exact idea that you can do with him. Exactly what you can do. He comes up, gets this little down screen from Clint Capella, pump fake, gets it back to Capella, goes and screens away. That gives Daniels the opportunity. The reason you go and screen away here in this set is that you have an opportunity here to get Daniels coming back on like a middle Chicago, middle zoom action where Capella can come back. You can try and get him downhill against Karl Anthony Towns. But instead, Daniels decides to reject. He thinks Josh Hart is overplaying because he thinks Josh Hart or Jalen Brunson, I'm sorry. What happens here is the Knicks screw up this switch between Brunson and Hart. You're going to see both of those players go with Dyson Daniels. And that's going to leave Risacher wide open. He just needs to take advantage of mistakes like that. That's really it. He'll be effective if he can do that. Now we're out in transition. Throws a fun behind the back pass to Dyson Daniels. He has real feel as a passer in transition. It's not always there in the half court yet. Again, he's not really breaking guys down necessarily, but he can pass. He is a good passer. I just kind of put that on there just to showcase that a little bit, that comfort level, that fluidity. Empty side ball screen for Trae Young. That little hesitation there from Trae. And then watch Jalen Johnson here. If I can get the video to work right. Jalen Johnson decides to cut from the top here, letting Dyson go behind. The fact that he cuts right as Trae Young comes off of this screen allows him to essentially be a little screener there onto Anunoby and get Risacher wide open. Risacher drills it. It's the way offense should look. Look at this cut, just perfect. We'll talk about Towns later. I mean, I just love this. This is fantastic. He gets McHale here. McHale thinks they're coming back up here for a dribble handoff like we saw earlier, but instead, because he's overplaying it, Risacher understands to cut back door. Really, really good effort there from Risacher. Empty ball screen. This is the stuff that he can't quite do yet. And note, he had 33 points despite not being able to do this stuff where he can self-create yet. But this is a small. I understand why he thinks this is a mismatch, but this is Deuce McBride. Deuce McBride's an awesome defender. He's physical. He's strong. He just says, get this shit out of here to me at the end of the day. Risacher can't really do that stuff yet. We'll see if it comes. It wasn't really something that he did all that often in France. He was more of a play finisher, a guy who's going to be like a third or fourth guy on the team. But you can score 33 points in a game sometimes doing that. You don't have to always self-create. Here, I loved this defensive play. Still very skinny and still just capable of walling up on Josh Hart, right? Risacher has always been a really active, aggressive defender. Really good on the weak side, typically. Also had some moments guarding perimeter players over in France as well last season. But that's just perfect. That's textbook defense. Doesn't go and get the rebound. Hart's an awesome rebounder, but that's exactly what you want. So here, they just realize early that he's open. Goes up with the left. Really good finish, right? Attacks the closeout from Hart. That's a hard finish. That is terrible rim protection from Towns. Again, we'll talk about that in a second. But really, really good balance, touch through, contact. Really important for Risacher as he continues to develop. Again, nice little jab step, attacks the closeout, gets all the way to the rim, draws a foul. Look, this stuff isn't, rocket science. We're not seeing anything crazy here. Now, I am going to stop for a second here. I mean, we need to see Towns step up here and cut this off. He's guarding Clint Capella, who's all the way out the 3-point line. We'll talk about it in a second. This one, inbounds pass, Risacher, wide open, just calmly drills it. Gets out into the passing lane here, reads the play perfectly, just steps back from beyond the 3-point line. He's feeling it in this game, right? Like he's just feeling himself. I loved Dyson Daniels' defense. I didn't think he was quite as good as Amen Thompson was last game, but oh man, was he good in this game. I thought that he got into the weeds with Jalen Brunson as a physical, powerful defender with length that really, really bothered Jalen. That's how you bother Jalen, is you're a little bit bigger and you can get a little bit more physical with him. This one, Jalen just throws right to Risacher, who jumps the passing lane. And Hart decides to stay back. Drills it. Risacher here. Or no, that's Jalen Johnson. Goes to get the rebound. I mean, I'm sorry for continuing to take, little drive-bys here, but I mean, get a body on him, dude. Come on. Jalen Johnson's an awesome rebounder. This ball ends up getting out to Risacher eventually off of the rebound. The reason I put this on here, just look at the shot prep. That's what he really, really improved last season, I thought. Look at him. That foot pointed toward the basket. Hands out. Perfect shooting range. Knees slightly bent. Off the hop. Gets into the shot perfectly on balance, right? Straight line. Simple, easy mechanics. Perfect set shot. Makes it super easy for himself. Again, deflection, up to Dyson Daniels, dunk. Was active defensively in this game, I thought. Wasn't like a monster defensive game, but was active. Drills another corner three. How does this one happen? This one happens because they put 2 on the ball here. No, it doesn't. How does this one happen? Happens because Towns is nowhere. Why is they're in drop? Mikhail's okay. Towns should be over here so that Anunoby does not have to help necessarily. I would guess that they might have been like nexting this a little bit with Trey as a strategy, just because if you don't at least stunt it, Trey, he will pull and take this shot here. But because Anunoby has to shoot over here, Trey recognizes that immediately. Trey is a basketball savant. He hits that beautiful little bounce pass to Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson forces the help in from Josh Hart and then drills this pass out to Risacher. But notice Risacher here gets his feet organized behind the 3-point line. Steps right into it, calmly drills it. Perfect. Early pass there from Trey. Risacher beats Josh Hart that time. It looks like he beats Towns, but he doesn't. He beats Josh Hart to the rim there. Easy tip in. Again, Risacher fighting through actions. They end up peel switching this. Risacher gets stuck on Towns. Here comes Towns. Big physical dude against a rookie. Just stands him up, goes long, blocks the shot. This is fantastic defense against a dude that is 7 foot tall, physical, strong, trying to bully you, blocks the shot, fast break goes the other way. That is everything that you could ask for from Zaccharie Risacher defensively. Here we go. Ball screen coming up from Capella. They overplay it a little bit. He throws up like a weird lob pass to Capella because Towns is in no man's land. I swear I was not planning on taking this many drive-bys immediately at Towns. I was planning on doing a whole segment on him. Throws that ball up to Capella. Capella, perfect. Makes it. Risacher is on the baseline, filtering through, gets to the corner. I put this one on here, even though he missed it. If he starts making no dip threes, so catches high, keeps it high, I mean, man, if he can hit those, that'd be huge. That'd be enormous. I mean, the catch high, keep high, man. If he can hit those, he has a lot of upside to be like a serious play finishing third option. Maybe even like a second option if things really broke right. But like a really high end, like big, tall, like Derek Whitey kind of player. Different player, but you know, that kind of value. And then this one just rips Josh Hart, gets up there, gets fouled. Here we go with Trae Young attacking Jalen Brunson. They double. He recognizes it. Pump fake, freezes Towns. Makes the little floater, ties the game. I mean, this end of game was a disaster for the Knicks, but Risacher, this is a huge game for him. This is exactly what Hawks fans would have hoped for, what Landry Fields, what everyone in that Hawks front office would have hoped for. They were hoping for somebody that could play next to Jalen Johnson as like a playmaker, up and down, in transition, can play next to Trae Young, can be a play finisher, shooting from the corners. This is exactly what they could have hoped for from Risacher. A fantastic game. Fantastic breakout performance. And he's been building for a while. The shot just hasn't fallen yet for Risacher. That's been the big issue to this point. He's only shooting 21% from three. And look, that's a problem. Risacher is a very shooting dependent player. And in general, in France, the shooting was a roller coaster. He had great months, and then he had months where he shot 21% from three. The consistency is going to be the key with him. If he's consistent, he'll be an awesome player. Okay, now we're going to talk about Towns and do so in a more substantial manner. The Knicks defense has been a mess this year. I'm sorry for just bringing it up. They've been really, really rough. I think they came into this game 20th in defensive rating. I'm just going to put on the tape. He is not active enough on defense. That's what it comes down to for me. He is not somebody that you can play drop coverage with. This was my concern with the trade for the Knicks from the jump. He has to play at the level and recover. That has to be what you do with him, or you have to put him next to a center like the Knicks or like the Timberwolves did. But if you put him in drop, you are just asking him to get dead. This is kind of unacceptable as a drop coverage defender. I get it that Trey ends up rejecting this screen on some level, right? But he's just absolutely in no man's land and lets Capella get behind him. Towns here, Capella here. Despite the fact that Mikal Bridges is like close enough to Trey's hip to at least continue bothering him. Like he stays attached here reasonably well. This is what we call no man's land. Where Karl Towns is right now is in no man's land in drop coverage. If you ever hear that term, that's what it is. He just gets beat. The Knicks came out super flat in this game too. I think it's worth noting. Here again, just no real like effort, no real second or third effort. And again, like my issue here is he is just like from a process perspective in no man's land again. He fakes like he's going to go up for the block, but doesn't actually go up. But he's still so far over. Jalen Johnson's an awesome passer. Like if he feels like he can't make this, he's going to get this ball to Capella. He doesn't though. That's not like his fault necessarily, but it's just kind of indicative of the experience to me. I mean, this one here, you can just see immediately that he and Jalen Brunson miscommunicate on what they're trying to do. You can see he has his hands up already. Like he's frustrated. He's like stomped there. Trey ends up missing the shot. They get lucky, but that's just like a pure breakdown in defense. Here. Again, I put this on here. It's just kind of a classic Towns, help rotation where he swats at the ball instead of just going up strong and like playing more at the, oh no, my marker's gone. Kind of swats at it instead of just keeping both hands high and trying to be an impediment. And Beckham Brown asks, is this just a scheme thing? Cat was pretty good in Minnesota defensively. It's a totally different scheme. He was playing the 4. He had Rudy behind him. Defensively, they would play a lot more of like show and recover defense. It's totally a scheme thing. He has always been really bad in drop coverage. But that's what Tibbs likes to play. So here, again, I mean, why are you not stepping in here? Clint Capella is behind the 3-point line. He can't shoot. It has to be a help. It has to be a help. You at least have to be available in some respect. Third quarter now. That's just not good enough as a help defender at the basket as the big. This has always been like the big issue with Towns, again, outside of the drop coverage thing. Even when he was, playing well here in Minnesota, he's just not a great rotator over. He doesn't really do a great job. I mean, that's like, he's got to be the last line of defense there, and he's just not doing a good enough job. Here, Capella, zoom action. Again, just not available and help. Just not really aware that he has Jalen Johnson backdoor here. And look, this is Anunoby. Like Anunoby gets beat here. It's a well-timed cut. from Jalen Johnson. Because again, they kind of decide, hey, we're going to have Anunoby help over here on Trey. But if you're Towns, you have to be aware, like you have to know what that is. Rudy Gobert is aware of that. Chet Holmgren is aware of that. Wemby is aware of that. And even when Wemby's not aware of it, he has the 8-foot wingspan to be able to deal with it. Have to be available weak side. I mean, again, you just see him get frustrated here, right? This is what you can kind of do with him, right? So this is a great, and look, this is more on Kolek to me than on Karl Towns. I want to be clear about this. Kolek anticipates that this is a dribble handoff, but so does Towns. Like Towns is all the way over. His foot here is past where Okongwu's feet are, just slightly, despite the fact that the dribble handoff hasn't happened yet. So he's cheating over. And Keaton Wallace just beats them back door here. And again, like more on Kolek to me than on Towns here. But yeah, also not good enough from Towns. Not great positioning. Here, again, just no impediment whatsoever. Doesn't even bother to get the hands up. Like I did the Zach Edey breakdown 2 days ago, right? Remember Edey? Edey had his hands up. Edey was like as long as humanly possible. He's trying to make himself as big as possible, as big as imaginable. Towns just has his hands down here. Just not doing anything. Not bothering Trae Young. Here again, nasty little behind the back fake from Trae. Gets to the floater. I mean, look, if you're not even going to bother Trae, you at least got to get a body on Capella there and like box him out and not just go up for the ball like that. Capella did a great job, but you can't, if you're not going to bother Trae, you at least got to get the rebound. This one, they run to try and get a switch here, I believe, right? That's the idea. I was kind of half paying attention. So yeah, guard to guard screen in order to get the switch onto Jalen Brunson. And this is like the exact action that I've been worried about with them for a while is Jalen Brunson and Towns ball screens, but they double with Hart, which is smart to get the ball out of Trae's hands. And again, I mean, he tries to stunt there to Risacher. I guess you can say that like you'd rather Risacher take that shot than throw the lob up to Capella. Like he just doesn't even give his team time to recover back because he doesn't do anything. He keeps his, like, why are his hands down here is my question. Hands can't be down here. That's like the only, if you want to go to Capella, that's fine, but hands can't be down. Yeah, this was, yeah, this was a rough one. This is a rough one from the Knicks. It was an immensely frustrating defensive game from Towns, and this is the exact thing that if I was a Knicks fan, I would be worried about. The exact thing is playing Towns in drop, because that's what Tibbs has always done, and just letting him get eviscerated by these guards. And look, like Trae Young did this to freaking Joel Embiid in the playoffs, and Embiid is a way better defender than Towns. But like, it's just the little effort, like the second and third effort stuff that bothers me with Towns. He's a great offensive player. He's been a great offensive player this year so far. I don't want to take anything away from him on that end. He had 34 points in this game. You go through what he's done this year. He had that monster 44-point game against Miami. I thought he was really good against Detroit. 21 against Indiana in their second game. But look, can't always be positive on this, right? Like, they need him to be a defensive player. You can have the best defensive wings in the NBA, and they do in Mikal Bridges and Anunoby, even though Mikal has been okay. He hasn't been great defensively yet. You can have McHale, Josh Hart, and OG Anunoby, but if you have both Brunson and Towns, teams will figure out a way to attack you. Towns has to get better defensively. There's no other option for the Knicks this year. There's just not. They're 3-4 now. And by the way, like, I wouldn't say their schedule has been a murderer's row yet. Miami has not been particularly good. Detroit, Houston, Atlanta. Houston's been solid. They played the 3 teams at the top that were great. Cleveland, Indiana, and Boston. Indiana's only been okay too, though, by the way. Yeah. They need Towns to be better on defense. They need Towns to be better on defense. That's what it comes down to. Okay. Last thing we're going to talk about here. My favorite thing of the last 2 days that I've seen in basketball is going to be Egor Demin. Egor Demin is a 6'8" point guard who currently plays for BYU. He is a freshman, originally from Russia, came over from Real Madrid this past summer. What Egor is best at, and let's actually start here before we get to what Egor is best at. And we're going to break down tape on Egor, obviously. I did not love what I saw on tape from Egor Demin. Didn't love it. I thought in the half court, it was a bit of a struggle for him to make the right decisions. I thought that, and this is at Real last year. I watched, I think, 3 full games of him playing in the Next Generation tournament. I watched all of his clips offensively, I think. Like, I watched a good amount of him. And I was just like, yeah, this is fine. Like, I can see the idea here. 6'8" point guard, whatever. Good passer. You can see the vision there. But the decision-making ultimately, right? Like that's ultimately always for me going to be the critical factor with these guys, and the shooting. He hit like 18% from 3 in that tournament. That wasn't great. And then overall, he just wasn't always making the right decisions. That was my worry with Egor. So I ended up with him like at the turn of the first round in my first mock. And then I ended up with him, I think at like 20 or so, 22, 23 in the preseason mock I did. I was very wrong. I don't know if I was wrong. Egor has gotten better, but I was too low on him, very clearly. What I started to hear in the preseason, and I wrote about this over at The Athletic, was you have to see him. He looks great. He's stronger, and he has been unbelievable in practice. BYU's coaching staff was telling everybody that he looks like a lottery pick. They were super, super excited about him. And I get it. I get the hype now. We'll talk about where I think he is in this draft after we run through the tape. But what I like most about him is I think that the decision-making and the passing and the playmaking has already really improved. He's always had great vision, but particularly the decision-making looks drastically better. He is processing the game at a level that I did not really see on tape when I watched him. We'll talk about the shooting in a second here as well, but I just want to give you guys a feel of what we're talking about as a passer with Egor Demin first. These are only from the first half. He ended up with 17 points, 11 assists. He could have had 18 plus assists easy in this game. And this is Central Arkansas. What I will say about Central Arkansas, they have a couple of pros on this team. Not NBA players, but like Elias Cato, number 25. Like, will play in the NBL here in Australia. Australian kid, real potential to be like a long-time pro in the NBL. They have a guard that's like pretty solid. This isn't a team without talent. They aren't like a great defensive team. This isn't a team without talent necessarily either. And he just completely shredded them So this one, I mean, the wraparound cross wing kick out hockey pass comes down, just beats his man off the bounce, realizes that Cato here has helped. But what's so impressive about this pass is that he doesn't make the pass here. That's where the help has come from. He makes the pass anticipating that this player is going to go to the corner and then shoots it cross wing from underneath the rim. But he also does it, if you can look at his face here, his face is pointed that way. He's manipulating that defender this way. And then shoots it one-handed with velocity up to the wing perfectly in this dude's hands. I think that's Saunders. That's not normal. That's not normal for a freshman guard. UCA tried to zone them. Good luck. Good luck zoning Egor Demin this year. Drills this pass directly into the corner. You have no chance to zone BYU this year. I love just that little pass fake, right? Right here. He forces this defender in because this guy has to step up to him and then puts it out to the corner. And again, look where he puts that ball. Couldn't be more directly into his shooters, right where he wants it, catching it. It's not in the shooter pocket necessarily, but it's right in his hands. Hit a head pass. Perfect lob. Again, though, drive. Forces that defender forward in the middle. Recognizes where he can put the ball in order for his man to get open. He could have put it right here, right where the hand was, but he passes him open up here instead. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. Here. I mean, perfect pass out. So what is he seeing on this one? Screen. Gets into the teeth of the defense. Again, as soon as he sees this corner defenders slip in, ball's going out. Ball's going out immediately. Attack the closeout. Finish at the rim. Perfect. This one's just a little shake pass, right? Nothing crazy. Again, like I said, could have had 18 assists, right? You know, what's a shake pass? Shake pass is you take a ball screen, you go this way, man comes up from the corner, up to the wing here in order to try and get this low man here to leave this player. He drills it. Would have loved him to drill the shot, but he drills the pass directly into the shooter pocket. Again, just a nice, easy pass into the half court or into the in transition here. Perfectly in the shooter pocket. Just misses it. The placement is there every single time. Here, this is not complicated. Again, he's just attacking, knowing that they're in a 2-3 zone and that this is the man who's going to be here and responsible for this player. So if he is able to get him on his back, it's an easy open shot. This one, just a steal. Love that he puts the ball in his left hand just for this little shovel pass, right? Stops, recognizes that Cato has to go with Saunders. He has the trailer here who has beaten his man down the court. The processing, the recognition, all of it is just so on point. This is all the first half. That's what makes this so ridiculous. Quick little behind the back pass, not quite on target. Lob's on point though. Lob's right there. I love the way he just gets this little hesitation, shoulder fake, crossover whip, perfectly timed screen, hits the baseline cutter. Again, hit a head pass. Could have been another assist. What makes this one so fun? This one's actually going to go in, but this is just an inbounds pass, you think, right? But look at where his face is. Look at where his eyes are pointing. Right? Eyes are here. Eyes are still there. That player here jumps straight up and down. His eyes are still pointed here. He's just manipulating these dudes so easily. And again, he's like 6'8". This is a big dude. This is a big dude. And then just drills this cross corner kick out. Could have easily had upwards of 18 assists in this game. Easily. Look at this. Little slip action. Sees this corner defender come in. Leaves Trevin Nell wide open. Right into the pocket again. Just every time. I mean, this is like special tape. This is not normal, guys. This is not simple tape for a freshman. Freshmen don't do this. Sometimes freshmen can score, but they don't really pass like this all that often. So I was worried about the scoring with Demin. Let's talk about the scoring because he gets 17 in this game. So here it gets to a step back, drills a three. Look at the place he gets to. Like, it's a little bit slow getting into the pull up. We're not going to sit here and say it's like perfect, right? A little bit of a forward lean. But I like the way he gets the weight transfer in, gets his legs really involved. The other thing I want to point out for you, and we're going to go back and we're going to look at some Real tape too. A lot more straight up and down, and the ball has a pretty consistent placement, right? Like his forehead, let's call it, as his shooter's pocket. We're going to get another three here, I think, right? So step back. Again, not really bringing the ball toward his face all that much. Beautiful, beautiful, clean follow through here. That's perfect. So, why was I worried about the shot at Real? Let's watch. So he is in the corner here, I believe, number 9. Number 3 for BYU, number 9 here for Real. That is Hugo Gonzalez, by the way, handling the ball. Beautiful cross corner kick out. Mechanically, he is completely, in my opinion, adjusted the shot. Look at his wrist here. Look at how his wrist goes like way underneath the ball, and then he's kind of coming a little bit closer to his face here. Comparatively to the BYU shots. I also think his body is like a little bit more turned in this shot. And you see the follow through here is just nowhere near as consistent. Short arms it kind of. Here's another one coming. This one he makes. But again, like super high level, like wrist, involvement here. But I like here where he gets to positionally with the shot. And you can see that this is like a shot to build off of a little bit. He makes it pretty straight up and down. Not dissimilar in terms of like the shooting pocket and where he releases this. I mean, dissimilar in terms of like the shooting pocket being closer to his face, but where he actually releases it, the release point of the shot is not dissimilar from what the shot is now at BYU. Again, to me, this one's a balance issue more than anything. Just kind of throws that ball up, misses it way to the right. A lot of left to right misses. I think he's kind of involving the offhand and the thumb a little bit too much. This one just way off to the right. Kind of a weird release where the ball's kind of knuckling a little bit. Good, like he gets rotation on the ball, but the ball's knuckling. This one misses to the left from the same spot. Like, what is that? 10 minutes later in the same game. Just was totally inconsistent. Total inconsistency as a shooter. That one like doesn't finish high, kind of finishes out a little bit. So let's go back to the shot with BYU now. Look at how much less involved the wrist is. That's basically straight. Instead of before, it was like way underneath, out here, and out here. The shot is just simpler now in a great way. It looks so much cleaner. That's why he's a real dude. He's cleaned up the shot in such a significant way. This is just like a heat check on some level. I don't love that he misses this left to right. Like that's not ideal that he misses this left to right. I would say here, he kind of brings this, you kind of see him fall back into the old mechanics, right? You can see the wrist is a little bit too far underneath. But even with that, I like that the follow through is consistent now. The balance looks cleaner and more repeatable. Mr. Ray, that's your immediate reaction to the shot in general as well. It just looks better. He's done real work on the shot. That's the key. This one, just big. Big dude that covers ground pretty quickly, right? Little hesitation here. Because he's such a great passer, you have to be available just that extra split second longer for the roll man on the lob. Ball screen coming up. Again, you can kind of see the ones that are bad. This is a really good one. You'll get to see the balance. I think his feet here aren't prepped well enough. Kind of has funky feet on this shot. Doesn't get them all the way underneath. And you're going to see him shoot way forward. So he takes off from here, and his right foot's going to land all the way here. The shot isn't perfect. It's good. Like he's going to go through stretches where he makes and misses shots. I mean, just a fantastic dunk there. I still want to see where exactly the shooting lands, if I'm being honest. I want to see where the scoring lands. But this is a dude. Again. Has changed the shot. Has made real strides with the shot. Knocks this down with ease. With real range. That's from NBA distance. Again, compare the feet on the last shot to this. Just perfect balance. Feet underneath. Great shot prep. He has his butt low. Knees bent. Good follow through directly in. I think he's going to shoot it at least off the catch. I feel confident of that. And I think he will make, pull-ups after teams go way under. The ones where he tends to miss, as you can see, are the ones where he's going forward. Whenever he has to have like real forward momentum, I think you start to see the mechanics that he's adjusted into break down a little bit. That's fixable though. Like that stuff can be worked with. If you have touch like he has shown, that stuff can be worked with. Again, just look here. This is different footwork, right? This is right-left footwork as opposed to making them left-right like we saw earlier, or he made one off the hop earlier. So he's making them off different footworks. When he gets his balance underneath them and he follows through, he can really shoot it. Want to see a little bit more as a finisher, just to know where it settles. I'm not saying he's a bad finisher. Just want to know where it settles at the end of the day. And then here, kind of like pseudo Iverson cuts. I like that again, though. Like that's a shot that is relatively okay to me. You see the feet again, like they get like just slightly off. And this ends up being a little bit more of a line drive where he finishes out instead of up. The ones where he finishes up high tend to be better. The ones where he finishes out tend to be a little bit more of a line drive. That one's a bit more of a line drive. But that's the key with Demin. I didn't love him because I was worried, okay, if he can't really shoot and doesn't have like a super in-between game yet, I certainly haven't seen it at the very least yet, and I've watched a decent amount of them now. How does he score? Was my question. How does he keep defenders attached to him as opposed to just playing the pass? If he can shoot now, it opens everything up. And I think the shot mechanics look like they've adjusted. I think he's made enough changes to the shot to where you can buy him being, at the very least, a good enough shooter to keep defenses honest moving forward. We'll see how it looks in Big 12 play, obviously. But here's what I would say. This tape against Central Arkansas is better than anything I've seen from Nolan Traore at this point. Just is. All of this looks repeatable to me. mostly because of the processing. He's 6'8". He passes like this. When you're that big, you can kind of make it work defensively in a more consistent way. He needs to at least like continue to work defensively. But right now, I at least have Demin in the top 5. This is what a top 5 pick should look like. I don't know where I have him within that group, but this is a difference maker in this class. This was a player I was really looking forward to watching as like a swing guy. He looks like, based on game 1, he's going to come through in a significant way. We'll see how it goes in Big 12 play. We'll see how he scores in Big 12 play. We'll see how things go over the course of the full season. But my God, like this is real tape. Like this is exactly what you look for from a playmaking guard in the NBA, because he is 6'8". He is a big dude. I have him in the top 5 right now. I don't know if I have him, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, but I have him at the very least at 5. I can tell you that. Is there an NBA team that immediately comes to mind fit-wise? I mean, Utah. Like, it's easy to say because he's at BYU, but Utah is the answer. Like, they have Colin Sexton as a scoring guard. They have Keontae George as a scoring guard. Putting him in Utah makes a ton of sense to me. I'm sure they would love to have him. It'd be amazing. But that's the team to me that tracks for him in a real way. Okay. That's all we got for tonight's show. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. We had a good time. I'm sorry I bummed everyone out talking about Karl Towns on defense, but we got to finish on a high with Egor Demin. We got to finish on a high talking about one of the fun breakout players in this draft class. We will be back tomorrow around 4:30 Eastern time with good friend of the program, Adam Finkelstein. We're going to talk about some NBA guys. We're going to talk about some draft prospects. I basically told Adam, who do you want to talk about? We'll talk about them. He's going to bring me some players and we're just going to talk through them. I have told him we're going to talk about Egor Demin because I want to get his opinion on him. And we're going to talk about Darren Peterson. So if you didn't watch this show all the way, that's okay. We're going to talk about him tomorrow as well. But that's all we got for tonight. Until next time, we'll talk soon.